Good afternoon, everybody. Big Mike back here with you once again. Welcome back to Big Mike Talks, where today I'm going to be covering the first part of this week in professional wrestling. So today I'm going to cover Monday Night Raw, NWA Power, and AEW Dynamite. I will be going through the rest of the schedule a little bit later because it gets a little interesting. So, sit back, relax, and let's get into it. So, first thing I'm going to cover, of course, it's Monday Night Raw. And we start off with the Cody Rhodes promo, in which he says, yeah, I've made some great memories in this arena, but I am going to make even more memories by winning back the tag team titles tonight. But that is our immediate future. There is also War Games to think about. And let me introduce you to the rest of the team. This brings out main event Jey Uso, Sami Zayn, and Seth Rollins. And Cody pretty much continues, well, we're all here for one reason, and it's the takedown of Judgment Day. And while I've gotten along with you all on certain levels, starting with Jay, Sammy, and ending face-to-face with Seth. We'll get into that situation a little bit later. We have to work together to take down Judgment Day, and right on cue, out comes Damian Priest, Dominic Mysterio, and Finn Balor of Judgment Day, along with their young boy, I'm going to call him for now, JD McDonough. And they're all laughing on their way down to the ring, pretty much saying, look at these clowns. They can't even look each other in the eye. And be real. You're nothing but a group of randoms, while the Judgment Day is a family. And when we step in the cage with one another, and then Judgment Day starts listing out the failures of the other team, including Sami Zayn losing his tag team partner, Jey Uso kind of failing on his own, and then Cody not being able to beat Roman Reigns. And then they call them all losers. Then Sami Zayn pretty much pipes up, no one wants to hear you talk anymore. I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to put us up against one another. And War Games, it's about power. And you don't know what you're in for, but you're going to find out the hard way. Cody then gets the mic back. He says, I'm sick of all this stuff. I'm pretty much shocked you got down here without your leader, Rhea. And then he runs down, who's actually the leader? Is it JD? Is it Balor? Is it Dom? Then Priest with the microphone says, I'm the leader. Which definitely got a bit of an audio gasp from the arena. And pretty much says, then Seth gets the mic, pretty much says, I'm sick of all this talking. Me and Sammy, we're dressed, ready to fight, so are you, Dom, and JD. So why don't we have ourselves a nice little tag team match to open up this show? And then Priest, we accept. So then the extras leave the ring. This leads to Seth Rollins and Sami Zayn versus Dominic Mysterio and JD McDonough. And I'm going to say this. They had JD keeping up with Seth Rollins. That was really good. Sami Zayn looked a little bit out there, but him working with JD also worked really well. And Dom I know I might get a little hate from this. Dom is doing some of his best work these days. He has greatly improved since he started, which was the Survivor Series, I believe. They go back and forth. Dom sets up for the 619, but that gets caught right into a big boot. A bucko bomb. But as Seth is going for that move, Damian Priest and Finn Balor grab him by the legs, trip him. So that leads to a DQ win for Seth Rollins and Sami Zayn. And Judgment Day as a whole, just beating down Seth and Sami. Out comes Cody and Jey Uso. They join in. Big old brouhaha. Then out comes security along with some other officials. They break it up. Then Adam Pearce, who is the Raw general manager, gets on the microphone. He says, "Enough! I am so sick of this. And tonight, anyone not involved in the tag team title match is banned from the arena tonight." So, that leads to an interesting stipulation for later on. But then out comes Rhea Ripley. She has the mic, pretty much saying, "You can't do this, Mr. Pierce. Raw needs the Judgment Day." And Adam Pearce is like, "Alright, you think I'm doing anything wrong? But you're out too." Then out comes Zoe Stark, who is Rhea Ripley's opponent for Survivor Series, I believe. She pretty much says, Rhea says, "I know what you're doing out here. I'm inside your head, Rhea. You're spread too thin. I went through all the women last week and earned this shot. And you're overlooking me." Rhea replies, "I'm not overlooking you, Zoe. I've watched you since you were on NXT, and you've accomplished a lot since you've got to the main roster, including retiring Trish Stratus. You beat Becky Lynch. You cemented yourself here in the WWE, and you remind me of a young me. And you're a future champ, but the only way you're going to win a title is going to SmackDown. And yes, I am not overlooking you, Zoe, but I can't handle it all. You said your piece. Now leave my ring." Zoe then finishes up. "I nearly took your title at Crown Jewel in that multi-woman match. And at Survivor Series, I'm going to take your title." And as Zoe Stark is starting to leave, Rhea goes after Zoe. Zoe then with the low bridge. And Rhea ends up on the outside walking up the ramp. I don't think we're going to see a new champ at Survivor Series, but this adds an interesting new dimension to this feud, I think. We then get a backstage promo with Shinsuke Nakamura, who says, "I'm blessed with privilege. Distractions haven't taken my eyes off of you. It all ends in my hands, and I'll be waiting." So, it does seem like Nakamura is waiting for a mystery opponent of some sort. Not sure who it is. A lot of people are saying Punk, but I guess we'll see. Then we see Seth Rollins and Sami Zayn backstage. They're kind of talking about what's going on. Then Cody Rhodes walks up, asks Sami, "Can we talk alone for a minute?" So Sami Zayn walks off. Seth is like, "You got too much to worry about tonight. You need to focus on your tag team title match." and I know this is why you're not here. And Cody replies, Seth, I need you on my side for one night so we can finally... the War Games team needs you. And we need to take out Judgment Day once and for all. Seth retorts, I don't like you, but damn sure I respect you. You need me for that one night? For War Games, we're good. Now go win the tag team titles. So, Seth and Cody putting aside the rivalry for now, which started at WrestleMania, what was that, 2 years ago now? That's honestly insane to think about. That Cody has been back in WWE for that long. Like, that blows my mind. So next up, we got our first match of the evening. Took you long enough, WWE. But it's a very interesting one, as the Alpha Academy's Otis takes on Shinsuke Nakamura. And, honestly, this is a very interesting matchup. You got the obvious powerhouse in Otis, but then you got the finesse of Nakamura. Early on, Otis goes for the Caterpillar, but Nakamura rolls out to the outside, hitting a bunch of clotheslines back in the ring, hitting the Caterpillar only for a 2 count. Otis with the world's strongest slam, but that only gets a 2 count. And Nakamura with 3 Kinshasas in a row. One from the middle rope, one from behind, and one right to the mush for Nakamura to pick up the win. Post-match, Alpha Academy are checking on Otis, and Nakamura pretty much grabs Chad Gable from behind and just pushes him a little bit. So will his opponent be Chad Gable in the near future? Because honestly, that match sounds ballin', and it really should be. Alright, next up, we got Seth Rollins. He's walking around backstage. He's got his gear bag ready to go. And he runs into Drew McIntyre. And Drew pretty much says, you're right. Losing at Crown Jewel was the best thing that ever happened to me. And there's something I wanted to give you. Extends his hand. Seth shakes back. And I'm going to do what I always do, and I'm going to fight my way back to a title shot. And then Seth leaves the arena per the stipulation. We then get a very interesting one-on-one matchup, as it's Piper Niven versus Tegan Nox. And I'm going to say this was a very, very not one-sided match. Like, I felt like they were going to give Piper Niven a bunch of offense, which they did. But Nox went pretty much counter for counter with her, which is great. Nox with a Shining Wizard. That only gets a 2 count. Then Chelsea Green up on the apron, who gets clotheslined by Niven, actually. Then Natalya pulls Green off of the apron, and they brawl. Green with a miss. Niven misses with a crossbody. World's Shiniest Wizard, but only gets a 2 count. Niven misses with a backdrop. Senton. Nox with the roll-up for the victory. So it does look like Nox and Natalya are going to be teaming for a little while, in which, honestly, that could be interesting. Give Natalya something fresh to do. We then go backstage for a Miz interview, who reveals, it took me a long time, I finally got a bus, which, okay, He then reveals, I'm going to restore respect of my Intercontinental title reign by beating Gunther at Survivor Series. Then Ivar interrupts, pretty much calling Miz a clown. And you'd be lucky to make it to Survivor Series. Bronson Reed then interrupts that, who pretty much says, Gunther was lucky to avoid me again. Ivar and Reed then lock horns. They have a stare down for a bit. And then Valhalla gets between them. They separate. I wouldn't mind seeing that Hoss fight. That would be all kinds of cool. Next up, we got Tommaso Ciampa taking on Ludwig Kaiser. And, yeah, this match was definitely interesting, as Vinci definitely got involved a couple times. Eventually, he did get thrown out of the match. A lot of really good back and forth. But then, Vinci, from out of nowhere, takes out Gargano, who was at ringside, which gives Kaiser the opportunity for a roll-up on Ciampa for the victory. Definitely an interesting match. It definitely felt like it was kind of stuck in second gear a little bit. But at least now we have a reason for another match. Maybe a tag match going forward. So, anyway. Next up, we get Judgment Day. They're talking backstage. Rhea's pretty much like, yeah, Survivor Series, I can handle Zoe. Priest, Balor, you need to focus on the tag team titles tonight. And Priest, I heard what you said out there. So for War Games, you're going to be the leader. And now it's time to give JD McDonough his due and make him up. He's proven himself many times over. It's time to finally make him a member of Judgment Day. Rhea has a little pack of something. Damian Priest grabs it. He's like, I'll do this myself. And walks off. So it looks like we're finally pulling the trigger on JD McDonough and Judgment Day officially. In which, that's going to be interesting. We'll see where that leads. But ultimately, it's good to see, more stables in WWE these days. Like, it's great. Next up, our first women's match of the evening as Xia Li takes on Indy Hartwell. And Xia Li doing her usual big kicks. Indy fights back after a little bit, but then after a spinning heel kick, Indy Hartwell collapses. And the match is called off. So your winner, Xia Li, by technical knockout, I guess. So, definitely a different feel for Xia Li. Like, it definitely feels like her stop is being built. I would like to see it with a pinfall or a submission or something. But knockouts, it feels different. And I like that. Then out next, Becky Lynch is out. She has a microphone. Pretty much says, Xia, thank you for hitting me in the head last week. You made me realize I don't have to wait for your time to have this fight. I'm going to do things on my time. And tonight, I'm looking for a fight. She then gets in the ring, tries a manhandle slam on Xia Li. She ultimately counters and slips out of the ring. Becky Lynch gets the microphone again. She says, oh, that's the kind of fighter you want to be? How about this? No more running. It's going to be you versus me next week. So, this is going to be a really interesting matchup. I don't want to say up-and-comer because Xia Li's been in WWE for a while. But, seeing a new face take on an established one, it's going to be interesting to see. Then we see Miz. He's warming up backstage. And then in comes Gunther, who congratulates Miz on his win last week. And the fun in the games are now done. And there's nothing you can do. And before Gunther can finish, Miz, with all the fire, comes back and says, "Watch my match tonight. I'm going to do whatever it takes to win. And I'm going to prove why I won that title 8 times. And know exactly and show you who you're dealing with." And then Gunther ultimately retorts, "I know exactly who I'm dealing with." So, this matchup, I'm going to say this. Face Miz, for me, really doesn't work. That promo put a little bit of belief in me. A little. Because that fired up babyface Miz, I mean, it kind of works. Kind of. We'll see how it goes for Survivor Series. So, we'll see. So then we see Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler backstage. With Baszler pretty much saying, "I had you beat last week in the Battle Royal. But you're on a roll so far. And I'm looking to see you beat Rhea." Raquel Rodriguez comes in. Pretty much, just want to wish you luck in your match with Rhea. And then Nia Jax rolls in. Pretty much says, "I'm sick of this lovey-dovey stuff. I've already squashed all of you. And none of you can beat me 1-on-1. And then Raquel, right in Nia's face, pretty much saying, "I'm not scared of you, Nia. When we fight, I know I'll beat you." So we're going to get that match next week. And I'm just going to say, Raquel, please don't die. That's going to be interesting. Next up, we got Ivar taking on The Miz. And, Miz hitting all his high points, middle bulldog, goes for the skull-crushing finale early, but ultimately he ducks out of that. Middle of the match, Bronson Reed comes out. He gets a steel chair from the the timekeepers area. Looks like he's going to hit someone with it. Then ends up putting it down, folding it out, sitting in it. So, match continues. Miz tries for the world's strong skull-crushing finale. That gets blocked. Ivar with a world's strongest slam, only for a 2 count. Ivar with a beautiful moonsault. But then Reed gets up off the chair. And then Miz with a powerbomb to pick up the win. So, this is going to be interesting. Miz, bit of a surprise win. I'm interested to see where this goes, which is definitely a first for me. Post-match, Bronson Reed attacks Ivar and hits a big old tsunami on both men. So, we'll see where Reed fits into this. I hope. I don't know, maybe he should turn babyface. Although, I do like Reed as a heel. Anyway, so we get JD McDonough. He's kind of hanging out backstage. Then Priest walks in. He has the bag. Pretty much says, "Part of me thinks you're not really ready. But you have taken so many shots for me and for the Judgment Day. So I believe that you're someone I can go to war with." Opens the bag. Gives JD McDonough his own Judgment Day cut. A.k.a., like one of those leather vests that biker gangs have. Then Finn Balor comes in. Pretty much says, "Oh, congratulations, JD. But you need to get out of here before Adam Pearce sees you. Then he turns to Damian Priest. Let's go show everyone why we are the tag team champions. And they clink the belts together. WWE, I don't care how much longer it takes. Y'all need some new tag team titles. Like, these nickel belts do not work. Let's get a new design. Then backstage, we have the full force of Imperium. That's Vinci, Kaiser, and Gunther. Pretty much saying, oh, well done for beating Ciampa out there. Kaiser replies, oh, just another day on Monday Night Raw for me. Gunther replies, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking to him. Points to Vinci, who's pretty much grinning like a Cheshire cat. That was great thinking. You won that match tonight. And then Gunther walks off. And so does Vinci eventually. And then Kaiser turns right into Jinder Mahal and into Sheer, which first time in a long time seeing that trio. With Jinder revealing, we're just going to go see Pearce in his office, so choose your next move wisely. Kaiser then walks off. Next up, you have the Alpha Academy backstage. They're just, back to being down in the dumps. The Creed brothers are standing right behind them. It's time. You got a need for Creed. Chad Gable replies, and abandon the Gable method, not on your life. New Day in, they all argue about who should be next in line for the tag team titles. And then it pans to, Maxine Dupree and Ivy Nile, who are pretty much talking, look at these guys arguing. Could they not do this right now? And then Nile and Maxine walk off, maybe thinking about going after the tag team titles themselves, which, alright, that could be interesting. And finally, we got the tag team titles on the line as Judgment Day, being represented by Finn Balor and Damian Priest, take on Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso. And this match was pretty much one of the best tag team matches I've seen in a while. Although, we'll get to that one in Impact, don't you worry. A lot of good back and forth. Jay dealing out the super kicks like they were candy. Everyone's pretty much down. Jay rolls to the outside. Then he looks off camera for a minute. It pans over. In is Drew McIntyre, who hits a huge Claymore to Jay. Rolls him back in the ring. Balor covers him for the 1, 2, 3. And your winners, still tag team champions, the Judgment Day. Then Rhea Ripley comes out on the stage. She and Drew share a look. And then they shake hands. So, I'm not 100% sure if Drew is Judgment Day or if he's just going to help them for War Games. But it looks like we're going to be 5-on-5, in which Cody and friends need a partner. And I know a Viper who would be very much, if he's healthy enough, might have a little bit of a comeback. I guess we'll see in later days. So, yeah, that's Monday Night Raw. Very enjoyable. Felt less repetitive. And we finally got some things moving forward, including JD McDonough finally joining Judgment Day. So now that was Raw. We now roll into NWA Power. which was an interesting show, especially with certain news coming out. I'm not going to go over it here. But we start out Power white hot with the junior heavyweight title on the line as Colby Corino defends against NWA newcomer Mo Jabari. And I'm going to say this, Jabari, this was my first time seeing Jabari, and he pretty much went toe-to-toe with the champ, and he kept up. Definitely had some good near falls near the end, but ultimately, after a super kick, a suplex, and a big old tornado DDT, your winner, Colby Corino. Now, post-match, Colby goes in, goes for the handshake. Mo Jabari is kind of doing it, but then he walks out of the ring. So, it does look like we are maybe continuing that rivalry, in which could be interesting. We then get a podium interview from Tiffany Nieves, who I've seen more than a couple times. She's good. She then pretty much says, I'm going to tell everyone a spoiler. To everyone on the roster, I'm going to conquer you all one day. And I only care about being numero uno. And Ruthie J, next week, I'm looking forward to our match. But keep your eyes on me. Nice little introduction to NWA for this newcomer. So, yeah, we'll see what we got. Next up, we got the women's tag team titles on the line. As Pretty Empowered, that's Ella Envy and Kylie Page, take on the new team of the King Bees. And I'm going to say, I've never seen the King Bees team before. I know one of them had a couple matches with the NWA previously, but as a team, they worked. Like, they were very impressive in their NWA debut. Including with King hitting a catatonic, in which, been a while since I've seen that. Shout out to Wildcat Chris Harris. But after a big elbow into a roll-up, so your winners, still tag team champions, Pretty Empowered. That was another fun match. Wish it did go on a little bit longer, but overall, I had fun with it. We then get an interview from BFT via Aaron Stevens, who pretty much says to the interviewer, I promised you a front row seat at Sawe, and you sat right on the throne, and as BFT won and stood victorious, celebrating, CJ low-blowed me last week, and she did that because Magic Inc. didn't have what it took to beat my guys. So next week, CJ, I challenge you to a gobble-gobble match in which the loser must wear a turkey suit, in which I hated the segment in TNA, like the turkey suit match, if you remember that, and AJ Styles wore it the first year. I hate that stipulation. This, loser must dress up humiliatingly. That needs to stay in the past. And we need to move on. Next up was actually a pretty funny segment, and it's Who Wants to Be a Spectacular, with both Rolando and Rush Freeman and Billy Corgan as judges for who should be in this. And we get our first applicant. It's Mercurio, who keeps talking about how he wants to woo ladies and he could do it with a bow tie. And, that doesn't go well. The second applicant, big surprise, it's Paul Burchill. If you guys don't remember him, he was kind of a minor player in the WWE. His first big gimmick was a pirate, if you remember it. And then his second one was hinting at, having relations with his sister, Katie Lee. Yeah, I think y'all remember that. Now, Rush and Corgan speak highly of him, but Rolando doesn't for whatever reason. So, I guess we'll see about that. Next matchup, it's a submission match as Koa Laksamana takes on Blake Troop. And I'm going to say this, Koa stood his ground. Even though he's a little guy, he stood like a giant today. He should be very, very proud. He definitely tried a couple of times for an arm breaker, but that got countered. Ultimately, after a powerbomb and a figure four, your winner by submission, Blake Troop. So, we'll see what goes on from there. We then get a backstage interview from Kylie Page, one half of the tag team champions, who pretty much says, you know who I am? Titles run in my family. And next week, I'm going to win. And here it is to the former champs. As next week, she's going to take on Big Mami. Although, I don't think it's the same character from AAA. I guess we'll see. But then Magic Inc., for whatever reason, interrupt. Pretty much saying, everyone thinks seeing is believing. Well, Magic Inc. is slicker than liquor and just as bad for you. And next week, if your boys get involved, it's over. We then go back to Who Wants to Be a Spectacular, where our third entrant is Tyler Midas, who has the gimmick of liking gold, which apparently he and Rolando hit it off, and Rolando rates him higher than Rush and Billy Corgan. Our next and final entrant is Casey Rocks, who apparently was an old roommate of Rush, and he tries to use that to get in with the Spectaculars, but everyone pretty much gives him a 0. So then, Spectaculars have a 6-man tag team match next week against the Southern Six, and Rush and Rolando are at odds as who's going to be the next Spectacular. Rush wants it to be Paul Burchill, and Rolando wants it to be Midas. So I guess we'll see where we go with that in the future. Future being next week. And finally, we got our main event of the evening as EC3 defends his World Heavyweight title against Talos. Now it's revealed that Daisy Kill is actually out on tour, which is why he's not at ringside. And I'm going to say, while this was not the most technical match of the evening, I'm going to give it a pass because this is easily the best match Talos has had. He absolutely had no trouble keeping up with EC3. About near end, Daisy Kill comes out. He trips EC3. Then out of nowhere, Jack Stain comes out. Hits the trunk on Daisy Kill. Talos misses the big boot. EC3 with the DDT into the 1%er for the victory for EC3. And that has us a stare down between Jack Stane and EC3. Definitely an eventful episode of NWA Power. Gonna see how this continues. We got some big tapings coming tomorrow. So, yeah, should be a fun one. And fine Alamo for this review. It's AEW Dynamite. And we start off with a tag team match, playa. As you have the Blackpool Combat Club being represented by Jon Moxley and Wheeler Yuta, taking on Hook and Orange Cassidy. And this match was absolutely nutty, including Jon Moxley eating an orange punch and no-selling it. Hook tries for the Red Rum, but that gets broken up. Mox with the Death Rider to pick up the win for the Blackpool Combat Club. Post-match, Moxley gets a microphone, pretty much saying, "At Full Gear, I put the world back on its axis. I'm gonna grind you down, and I'm gonna take your title, and there's nothing you can do to stop me." We then see Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho, Kota Ibushi, and Paul White arriving in the arena. They all have suits on. They all look really, really suave. Then we get the Swerve Strickland, Hangman Adam Page face-to-face, where if they touch each other, they're suspended until the end of the year, and the match at Full Gear is called off. So, Hangman comes out immediately, gets on the microphone, pretty much says, "Swerve, why did you go into my house? It's because you're a coward, you're a dumbass. You told me a month ago you wanted to be the champion, but I don't see it. I don't think you have it. You can't cut it. You're not as big of a man as you think you are. And you wanted this to be personal. You surround yourself with nothing but yes men, and Prince Nana is obviously using you. He makes a living off your back while he's doing his dances, making his money off his merch. Oh, and don't worry. After I beat Swerve, I'm going to beat your ass. Swerve, you're not a man at all. You're a child, and I've worked with kids my entire life. I'm going to teach you the last life lesson you're ever going to have, and you're not going to come into my house. In my house, I'm judge, jury, and executioner. Oh, and one more thing. Obviously, I couldn't put my hands on you tonight, but nothing about him." Pointing at Prince Nana, and goes right after him, starts brawling with Nana. Swerve obviously can't do anything. Out comes security to break it up. And then Hangman starts fighting off security. Big old buckshot lariat to a security guard. And yeah, that was a hell of a segment. And I think a promo Hangman Page has needed for a long, long time. Hangman, I feel like, has done nothing but kind of coast about in the lower mid-card for a little bit. But now, this feels like main event level Hangman Page. And, yeah, I guess we'll see what happens going forward. We then get a backstage interview with Roderick Strong on the Kingdom. Pretty much says, "I know exactly who the devil is, but I'm not just going to say it to you. I'm going to get Adam Cole on the phone, gets him on the video chat big board." Pretty much says, "I know who the devil is. It's Max, MJF." And Adam Cole obviously rolls his eyes. "Roddy, stop it. I got a lot going on right now. I know Max isn't the devil. Maybe it's you, Roddy." And then Roderick tries to reply, but Cole hangs up. And, yeah, that's the end of that segment. Gonna be very, very interesting. And then post that, picture of the devil pops up. Maybe it is Roddy. I guess we'll see going forward. Next up, we got Sky Blue versus Red Velvet. And I'm going to say this match was a lot better than the crowd brought it out to be. Like, this crowd was pretty much dead this entire match, which is a shame, because these two really brought it. Now, is it anything really to write home about? No. It's definitely not like a top 5 match, but I felt like it was super entertaining, especially with Red Velvet countering out of a Code Blue. Then eating some super kicks. Sky Blue with a Code Blue to pick up the victory. And then we see backstage Chris Statlander and Julia Hart watching on as the triple threat is now set for full gear. We then have a really interesting promo from Miro, the former Rusev. Pretty much saying, I love that woman, but she's bringing the storm. I stood by her for a long time, but she brings the worst out of herself and me. Garcia, I'm going to see you Saturday where I break you. Well, he doesn't exactly say that, but... Then we get Mariah May finally meeting Toni Storm. She goes in, obviously goes from color to black and white, almost seamlessly. There's a little bump kind of near the beginning, but it did look really cool. Maria starts off, look, I'm new here. I just signed with AEW. I'm a huge fan of yours. And then Tony pretty much perks up, pretty much saying, look, I love meeting fans. I'm not doing autographs right now. I'm obviously indisposed. Now get out. And May leaves. Then she turns to Luther, who I honestly forgot was her butler. Pretty much saying, have Director Khan book me in a warm-up match for Friday. So Rampage, she's going to have a warm-up. We then get Samoa Joe versus some local yokel. And in comes probably the funniest spot of the year, where the local guy goes for a moonsault, but Joe does his usual walk-off no-sell thing. But it isn't just that. It's the look on the dude's face. It's like, come on! Before going splat right on his face. Right into the Kikina clutch for the win for Samoa Joe. Joe then gets on the microphone, pretty much says, Max, since you're in my hood, I'm going to extend my offer of friendship. But time on that is limited. I am Samoa Joe, and I am inevitable. Man, those sound like some fighting words from Joe. Kind of makes me think he might be the devil. And we go into, I think, easily the most fun match of the week, as Pentagon El Zero Miedo teams up not with his brother Rey Fenix, who is still out with injury, get better soon, buddy, but he teams up with Commander, who is the current AAA Cruiserweight Champion, as they team up to take on the Young Bucks. And I'm going to say this. Young Bucks and Lucha Brothers have some great chemistry together. I'm going to say this. I believe it was 2 years ago at All Out, where they had an awesome cage match. I think this might be a better TV match. Everyone worked well together. plenty of near falls. But with Commander coming in, Nick with a low blow, Matt with a Judas effect, which that was definitely a shot at their opponents for this Saturday, and then a BTE trigger for the win for the Young Bucks. Then we get a Young Bucks backstage interview, who pretty much say, look, Space is telling me the Bucks don't give a damn about how they win, and we're going to win Saturday. This brings in Kenny Omega, who pretty much says, that's who you want to be, huh? My heat. Matt then answers, look, our heat obviously isn't with you. It's with Jericho. Jericho comes in. He's still kind of in his suit. Hey, Omega, we got a match to win. Let's not worry about these guys right now. Then the Young Bucks then attack Chris Jericho. Omega's trying to get them off of him. And then officials come in and break it up. Definitely going to be interesting to see what Full Gear brings for these two. Because, honestly, I'm not really sure who wins. Next up, we got the Guns of Bullet Club Gold taking on some local Yokos. Gets one of them out of the ring. Bunch of stomps. 310 to Yuma. The win goes to the Guns. Another squash match on TV, which, I don't know, I guess. Guns then get on the mic, pretty much say, Max, that match was obviously 2-on-2. Imagine what it's going to be on this Saturday. All your friends are gone. Your titles are about to be ours. And Max, we got 2 words for you. Guns up. I kind of do hope the Guns win these tag team titles. And don't get me wrong. I love MJF and Cole as the tag team champions. I got a funny feeling something's going to happen with that. We then get a vignette from Wardlow, in which I do kind of miss seeing him wrestle. He pretty much says, I saw fear in the devil's eyes. Time is running out for you, Max. The days of the devil are coming to the end, and I'm going to make the devil my bitch. In which, definitely some fighting words from Wardlow. I'm going to say this. I am loving this attacked on all sides thing MJF is going through. MJF on an island on his own. He's got the Guns. He's got Jay White, Wardlow. He had Kenny Omega for a while. Like, everyone is gunning for him. And it's a great story. I wish more Dynamite could be like this. And then we go into our main event matchup, in which it's Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega, Kota Ibushi, and Paul White. Paul White. Take on members of the Don Callis family. That's Kyle Fletcher, Powerhouse Hobbs, Brian Cage on loan, and I am missing someone. Who am I missing? It's not Ricky Starks. Who the heck? Oh, Konosuke Takeshita. And this matchup starts out white hot with the Don Callis family and the babyfaces meeting in the middle. Hobbs and Paul White then fight backstage. Kota Ibushi then gets on a bicycle, which is on the top of a ramp, rides down, swats at some people with a pipe, but then gets hit by a big old clothesline by Brian Cage. Then we see outside Powerhouse Hobbs and Paul White are on top of a stack of crates. And then Hobbs with a massive power slam to Paul White from those crates onto a hood of a car, in which that bump looked a little gnarly, man. I hope Paul's alright. Like, I don't want to see anyone get hurt, but that one looked a little brutal. We get a little Takeshita, Chris Jericho fighting up in the concourse, which was a lot of fun. Near the end, Omega and Jericho tie up Powerhouse Hobbs in the ropes with some tape. Hit a couple of V-triggers, a bat shot, one winged angel, and your winners of this street fight, Kenny Omega, Kota Ibushi, Chris Jericho, and Paul White. Then backstage we get an MJF promo. No, it's not even backstage. It's in front of the crowd. And he apologizes after the attack on the Acclaimed. Obviously, my past will catch up to me. And people get hurt. I feel cursed. And I'm sorry you got caught in the crossfire. I hope you feel better. All I wanted to be growing up is the champion. And I spent every moment reaching the top. And it's not all that up here. You look down and see every man trying their best to shove me up the top. And I'm afraid. I'm afraid to lose everything. And do you know what I did to Cole and the Acclaimed? I'm afraid to let you all down. Now the old me would have run. But I'm not done letting the past run things. Send your army to take my spot. Jay White, you have the title you didn't earn. You want to take my spot? No one can. And a big message to this devil who took my devil suit. I'm going to find out who you are. And I'm going to beat you down because there's going to be hell to pay. Then out comes Jay White, Bullet Club. It's actually Jay White at first, saying, please, you're going to make me sick. You're doing nothing but embarrassing yourself. You're trying to be the hero, but in your heart, you always know you're going to be the villain. And you're not fooling anyone, Max. You and I know that you are the devil. You're not a hero. You know better. And you mean nothing to them, and they mean nothing to you. Your days are numbered. And Bullet Club Gold, get them. So then the rest of Bullet Club Gold come out. They start surrounding MJF. MJF starts fighting them off. But Juice Robinson with the left hand of God, which is a great name for a finishing move. A 310 to Yuma from the Guns. And then finish it off with a good old Blade Runner with Bullet Club Gold standing over MJF. With Samoa Joe watching on the monitor in the back, chuckling to himself. So, yeah, that's This Week in Wrestling Part 1. Definitely some very interesting moments, especially for the Go Home Dynamite for Full Gear this weekend, in which I will cover that and MLW Fightland, but I will only do the results. I'm not going to get super into it, because probably not going to end up watching it. Not to say it won't be good, but I got some things to work out. Anyway, so yeah, we got MLW Fightland coming up Saturday, along with AEW Full Gear. Both really feel to me to be promising shows. And I will go over the results of them on either tomorrow or on Tuesday, because Monday I'm going to be a little busy. Although we'll see. And a little viewing update for you AEW and WWE fans. Going down tonight, both SmackDown and AEW Collision are going to be on at the same time. SmackDown on Fox, and then Collision on TNT. So if you're going to end up watching one and taping the other, you guys do you. For me, I'm going to end up just choosing one of them to watch this week. Probably going to end up watching SmackDown, and then I'll tune in for Rampage. So, definitely an interesting Friday. Hope you all have a really good Friday and a really, really good weekend. And until next time, happy wrestling, everybody. Peace.